Hey everybody, it's Wakia here, Thunder. I thought I'd talk about violence on our senses today. Um, we're so far away from nature that it's incredible. I mean, the stuff that we put up with every day that affects our senses, and I taught a short thing on presence, being in presence, and it had to do with senses. It had to do with tuning into your senses. And the reason that we have to tune into our senses is because it gives us extra sensory perception if we do it right. But when we do that, when we become more sensitive, we realize that we're being bombarded daily. That's why we shut down our senses. We turn them off, we kind of tune them out, we tune things out, we tune sounds out. In a city, there's any number of noises that can drive you nuts or that you don't want to hear that have nothing to do with nature. Now, if you sit out in nature by a stream or just where there's no people, if you're away from the city and you sit out in nature for about an hour, and it takes you that long, it would take you that long if you came from the city, you're going to start hearing things that you never heard before in nature, or you're going to start seeing things you never saw before. You're going to start smelling things you never saw before because our senses are bombarded continually in the cities and around the cities and anywhere near. I mean, even neighborhoods that aren't really in the city, that are on the outskirts, you're still getting. Take for example, any number of machines could be committing violence on your senses, like construction work. Um, that's one. Then you have the ever present and faithful weed blower man with the that blows dusts around after he does gardening. He blows it around and spreads dust and pollutants in the air instead of sweeping it over to the side like we used to do in the old days. But you got this constant whir, you got that noise from the blower going, and then you have other noises like the beep beep beep. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Whoever invented that backup system about beep 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 should be hung. Um, and also these god awful sirens. But the beep 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 and the garbage trucks and the stuff that you hear every day that you just don't even pay attention to, is just violating your space continually. And the slamming of the dumpsters on the ground, the planes flying overhead, the buses and cars and trucks and trains, and especially the airplanes flying overhead with the jets if you're near an airport. Um, then you have your other senses are you get noxious fumes all day from different places. Let's say you're walking through the city, you're going to smell. If you're a good tracker like me, you're going to smell all kinds of different just wonderful smells, coming up from the sewer, coming from the bushes, coming from the sidewalk, coming from uh, all over. Okay. You don't want to go near a bus stop in a city and be a tracker because it's disgusting. The stuff you see, smell, hear. Then you got the pollutants in the air, okay, that are affecting your eyesight, smell, uh, tactile perception, sensory perception. Then uh, you got unnatural conditions because of concrete being all over the place and being heated up. You're not getting the natural flow of wind and actually sounds echo off that too. So you're getting bombarded daily. you got your neighbors maybe yelling across the street. You got kids running around the neighborhood yelling. You got just a million different things. You could sit there and you could think of a million different things that bombard your senses daily from your surroundings. And we're not just talking about, we're talking about things in your own house too. I mean, appliances. And what about the TV that is continually blaring? What about uh, all kinds of things? Now, if you go back to that setting in nature where you're sitting in silence and maybe out next to nature by a stream or by a, you know, just a group of trees, you can actually hear the wind in the trees. You can hear crickets. You can hear birds chirping. You can hear. The other thing too is when we're in the city, we don't walk around barefoot. We don't walk around in moccasins, hardly, because the concrete's so hard, it's rough on you. So, that feeling you get when you walk in grass? Most people go, huh? What's that, walking in grass? Well, when your feet curl down and your toes curl down and the grass comes up between your toes and that feeling you get. I'm sure you've had it sometime in your life. It's just a great feeling. And the feeling that you get from the wind blowing freely and not blocked by buildings and not heat rising from buildings. And then your sight is attacked by all the different structures that we have around us that are ungodly and untribal. They're all square. They're not circular. They're square for the most part. So you put all these things together and it's like violence on our senses. When really we should be walking around in some kind of pristine wilderness. That's what we're put on earth for, to enjoy the earth. And why man is so intent excuse me, on building structures all over the place. I mean, it's just continual construction and building this and tearing this down and building this up and putting up high-rise this and big building that and bigger airports and bigger apartment complexes like a chicken coop, like chicken coops. All these people crammed into different areas. And people that live in the city like New York or any big city, doesn't even have to be New York, it can be any city. It's like New York, it's like LA. Hell-A, we used to call it. Buses, trucks, trains, honking, beeping, sirens. Oh, I don't know how many sirens that you have in your neighborhood, but that seems like a continual drone. Okay. Where I'm at presently, it's like a continual drone of sirens wailing and screaming. And do they really need to have them that loud, people? Do they really need to have them on all the time? I can remember when I was a kid, you'd hear a siren once in a while. Okay. Then it had a whole different sound. It wasn't a screechy electronic sound. It was more like a siren, a whirring sound. It wasn't this. I mean, this loud, ear-piercing Talk about violence on your senses. All this stuff is violence on your senses. And what do? You shut your senses down because you don't like it. It's not natural to your being. So consequently, we become more robotized, and we walk around in this stupor. Okay, we walk around in an actual hypnotic trance and stupor. Excuse me. You know what a stupor is? A stupor is like, huh? What? That's what a stupor is. Now, think of just the opposite of that, like a babbling brook, stream flowing, wind blowing in the trees, scents of different plants and animals and things coming through the air, dirt, the smell of dirt, the smell of wet dirt after a rainstorm. Jasmine, lilac, sage, I could go on and on. Do you smell all these things in the city? No. Mesquite, just any number of plants and smells that are associated with those plants. Do you smell any of that in the city? Even people that live next to the seashore can't hear the ocean. I mean, it's bad, people. And man is bent on eradicating any semblance of nature. As his cities spread out further and further and further, and as the corporate Mongols, the hordes, invade even small cities, there's no reverence. There's no reverence anymore for Mother Earth. People have their little gardens in the city, and it's kind of pathetic, don't you think? At least they're trying. But how do you get away from this? How do you open up your senses again? Well, you go to nature. Okay? The best way you can, whether it's just a tree down the street growing out of a sidewalk, go up and hug it or talk to it or do something. Of course, they're going to think you're nuts, which is really their nuts. And the people that commune with nature and talk to trees and hug trees and touch trees and lay in the grass and lay on their backs and look up at the sky and watch the blue clouds, and those people are real. Okay? Those are the real earth people, the people that it breaks their heart to see the damage that's going on to, and that's the real damage that's going on to the planet. It's the paving over of Mother Earth, the paving over, the hard concrete paving over, and the hard concrete building up to giant, replacing the natural mountains with mountains of steel and concrete, and replacing the birds with airplanes and helicopters. And that's another thing you got zooming around, police helicopters. Just think about all the different ways that your senses are violated. Okay, no wonder we're all in bad shape. We're not even opening our energy centers, our sense centers, senses of hearing, senses of touch, senses of taste. None of that stuff are we opening up. We're shutting it down because it's a natural thing to do. Ooh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to smell that. I don't want to feel that. And if that's not enough, then we come home at night and sit back with a beer and numb our senses and sit in front of a friggin' TV and listen to the talking heads and the idiots on there. And even the music is not music anymore. It's generated electronic bombasting, is what it is. It's not pleasant. There's some music like jazz and classical and stuff that is actually healing and pleasant. They did an experiment a long time ago with heavy metal music as opposed to like music like jazz or soft music or classical music, and plants thrived with that and they died with the other. So what does that tell you? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, does it? So you need to like try to get out as much as you can, get to a park. You could have a little Zen fountain running water. That helps in your house, that trickling water. Or you can even, I hate to say this, but they actually have recordings. I'd rather listen to a recording of a gentle wind or some seashore sounds or a babbling brook than I would the stuff that's going on outside. And you can close your eyes and meditate and take yourself to nature. You can tune into Mother Earth. You can tune into nature in all kinds of different ways. It's almost, you know, how they use white noise to mask things. Well, you can use, I personally use things like recordings in nature, thunderstorms, brooks, babbling brooks, rain. When I can't get the real thing, and it's going to be harder and harder to get the real thing because the weather's changing because of man-made. When you think about how much man is mucking up the earth in all different areas, he's actually destroying himself just with sounds. Just with sounds and noxious smells, and not to mention all the products that surround us that are made out of polyethylene. I don't even want to get into it, okay? Let's just put it this way. We're out of our natural environment. We're out of our setting that we should be in. That's why people, don't do well on all levels, is because they're being bombarded. Their senses are being bombarded and violated. And so this is a war. It's kind of like us, the earth people, against them, the idiots that are out there surrounding themselves with cars and sounds and boom boxes. There's another one. Man, I'm glad I didn't leave that out. Boom boxes that shake the whole friggin' neighborhood as the guy drives by. You can imagine what his senses are doing. Look at some of these idiots that are driving with the big boom boxes on. They got a glaze over their eyes. And then it's not just boom boxes, it's spewing all kinds of radical, negative bullshit. Okay? I got a real bone to pick with those guys. If they want to destroy their hearing and their senses, drive that sucker off a cliff. Might as well. Like everybody else wants to hear the latest rap song with the latest heavy-duty boom box. And if it's not that, it's some other screeching music. And it's not really music. People need to get a grip on what's really, really healthy for them. That's why I'm doing this video, to call it to your attention. You know? Don't take things for granted, sounds and all that stuff. Man, as a tracker, I go nuts because I can hear a cricket 3 miles away. You put me in a city and it's like overwhelmed. It's, what are these idiots doing? They're building more buildings, they're making more sounds, they're destroying things, they've got music blaring everywhere, they got... And even in the Old West, guys would ride into town from, you know, out back, or if a native went near a town, it was like, holy shit, what is this? Compared to what they were used to. The smells started way back then, and Sitting Bull talked about the refuse of the cities and what he couldn't believe it. He went with the Wild West show, William F. Cody's Wild West show, and toured even it overseas. And he gave all his money to people that didn't have any. And he bought them meals, and he didn't care about the money. And he was looking at the whole situation. He was just like shaking their heads. In fact, some of the early settlers and cowboys, when the times started changing, they started putting up fences and they started doing all this. And it's like, what's going on here? My way of life, my lifestyle, the country life, the good life of riding your horse out on the range is gone. This stuff all needs to be destroyed. It needs to be destroyed, people. It needs to be wiped off the face of the friggin' earth. With the people that are perpetuating it, because what good are they? I just thought I would get this off my chest, so to speak, today, and inform people that you got to realize what's going on around you. There is no semblance of nature, and we think about nature in terms of, oh, well, they're ruining the planet with chemtrails, and yeah, they're doing that, and they're ruining the planet with this and that and global warming. But what about just your immediate surroundings, people? And you let it get this way, and you probably partake in it. You actually caused some of it by driving your cars and your motorcycles, and nothing against motorcycles and cars, and don't get me wrong, but wouldn't you rather be walking around in nature or riding a horse? I would. Or just tracking out back with your dog. And forget about vehicles and the whole bullshit that came along with Manifest Destiny and the Industrial Revolution and all of that stuff. It's a killer. It's wasting man away. It's killing us all because a few people want to, not live in tune with Mother Earth. They could have. There's earth-friendly houses, there's solar energy, there's wind energy, and the earth-friendly houses are like teepees and yurts, and some actual houses are built right into earth houses. If you look, you can find them. They're actually built right into hillsides and almost cave-like structures, and they're beautiful. They're at oneness. They're not just plopped on top of the land with concrete and reinforced steel. And they go with the flow of the earth. They go with the bounty of the earth mother, Maka, teepees. And one of the precepts of the Campfire Council is to live in this manner. Not living in the manner that we're living today, and not being dependent on all of this plastic stuff that surrounds us that makes us feel like we're safe and makes us feel like life's easy. It's not easy. It's harder. Yeah, you can go to the supermarket, but look at about all the trucks that cause pollution that carry all the stuff to the supermarket. Yeah, you can go to the blah blah blah, but usually associated with that is some kind of mechanical machinery. It's best to go back to the old ways, the tribal ways, and live in accordance with nature. And that's what's going to destroy us all. That is the root cause. It's our immediate surroundings that have desensitized us to what? To nature. To nature. To the spirit that moves in all things. I'm serious about this. People need to wake up and get a clue that they're supporting violence on everybody's senses. And even our emotional senses, our deep spiritual self, is bombarded with the stuff that we hear in the world. So you got not double whammies or triple whammies, you got quad, triple whammies hitting you all day, every day, in some way. I won't even get in today to the other senses, the emotional senses, the heart sense, the spirit sense, the sense of justice, the sense of true justice. By justice, I mean there's no justice for Mother Earth. There's no justice for the Earth people. There's no slack given to those who love a free way of life. It's called freedom, people. Freedom from atrocious, horrendous environmental impact upon our spiritual, physical bodies. What would happen if you were a native on the plains and you were set down in the middle of New York City or LA or any big city? You'd be astounded. And you know that happened to a few Indians back when they were told, yeah, you're going to go on the train and visit, you're going to be in a peace delegation, and you're going to go travel on a train, see the Great White Father, and go to Washington, D.C. And when they were put on trains and they started going across, first the train alone freaked them out, going that fast. But when they started getting into the cities and seeing all the people spread all over the place compared to what they were used to, and the depersonalization of the person, the being, the depersonalization by sheer just mass numbers, mass quantity of people, massive quantities of people, being busybodies, scurrying about, hustle bustle, thinking they have to go somewhere, be on time, be somewhere, report somewhere, support somewhere, slave their ass off somewhere for somebody else somewhere, who now we realize are the masters of us all because of the control that they have us under through all of these things I'm talking about. So think about that, okay? Think about your surroundings. Think about what you can do to change that by either getting the hell out of Dodge or letting your voice be known when you hear things that's not right. Speaking up, And it starts right here in your own environment, people. In your own environment. And it spreads out in a circular fashion around the world to horrendous scenes of war and just things that are unbelievable. And so we are in a war, in a sense. So there is a war upon us, just on our sense level. Just that. And that's the worst thing there is. Okay, people. I hope you take this to heart, because that's really the root of the problem, is what we've become accustomed to. What we allow ourselves to have to experience without even speaking up about it. Anyway, I guess I'll pull my pickets. That's an old Western term for getting out, getting your horses ready, and kind of getting on out of here. So I'll mosey on out of here and leave you with those thoughts. Think tribal, people. Think earth. Think nature. Think the spirit that moves in all things. Ask for grandfather's help so that we may all somehow return to that beautiful paradise called Mother Earth, the spirit that moves in all things. Walk the red road, people. Later.